So what if um, those polite, fragile little thank you notes we were taught to write as kids are actually hiding, like one of those digressive, heavy-duty spiritual defense mechanisms out there?
I mean, we really have completely domesticated the concept of gratitude, haven't we?
Oh, totally.
We treat it like a social transaction. Someone hands you a birthday gift, you say the appropriate words, you smile, and the exchange is just over.
Right, it's very reactionary.
Exactly. It is reactionary, it's delicate, and frankly, under any real amount of life pressure, that version of gratitude just completely crumbles.
It really does. And pressure is exactly what we need to talk about today on this deep dive. Because if you are listening to this right now, you are participating in the monthly Baseline Family Church Fast.
Yeah.
And you have officially arrived at day 5.
Wow, day 5, you are really in the thick of it now.
You are. The physical reality of what you're doing is definitely setting in. And today's source material, the Day 5 daily devotional titled The Architecture of a Thankful Heart, is on a mission to just completely tear down that domesticated version of gratitude.
I love that title, by the way.
Right. It's so good. So the goal of our deep dive today is to explore how this devotional repositions a thankful heart. It's no longer this delicate piece of stationery.
No, not at all.
It's being presented as like a rugged walking stick for a grueling hike, or, more accurately, as a deliberate spiritual weapon designed to keep you aligned with God while you fast.
Yeah, the phrasing the source material uses is striking. I mean, it explicitly calls gratitude one of the most powerful forces in your spiritual life.
Which is a huge claim.
It is. It elevates it from a fleeting, pleasant emotion to an actual structural action. The devotional breaks down the internal mechanics of this force, noting 3 specific things gratitude does.
Okay, what are they?
Well, it softens the heart, it stabilizes the emotions, and it fundamentally shifts your focus from what is missing to what God is currently doing.
I really want to pause on that shift, from what is missing to what God is doing, because the biological and psychological reality of fasting makes that incredibly difficult.
Oh, physiologically, it goes against everything your body wants to do.
Right. Because I'm on day 5. My blood sugar is low. My normal routines are entirely disrupted. My brain is quite literally receiving constant alarm signals from my body, just screaming about lack.
Yeah, your baseline state right now is just acute hyper-awareness of what you don't have.
Exactly.
I mean, the human nervous system is wired for survival, and when you withhold food or, whatever specific comfort you are fasting from, your brain interprets that scarcity as a threat.
The alarms go off.
Right. The amygdala gets louder, you become irritable, anxious, and just hyper-focused on the deficit. So when the devotional tells you to use gratitude to shift your focus, it is asking you to perform a profound neurological and spiritual override.
That is such a good way to put it. A spiritual override.
Yeah, because you are using a posture of thanksgiving to tell your brain, hey, we are not in danger. We are in submission.
Okay, but let me push back on this for a second, because this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone listening right now.
Sure.
If I am starving on day 5 and my life outside the fast isn't pausing, like maybe I have a massive deadline at work, the kids are sick, the car needs tires, doesn't choosing gratitude run the risk of becoming toxic positivity?
That is the big question, right?
Yeah, like how do I reframe my reality without essentially lying to myself and pasting a fake smile over genuine chaos?
That tension is the entire crux of the Day 5 message, actually.
Yeah.
And the devotional anticipates it perfectly. There's a critical distinction made in the text.
Okay.
It states, and I quote, "A thankful heart doesn't deny reality. It just chooses to see God's hand in the middle of it."
It doesn't deny reality. So I'm not supposed to pretend I'm full when my stomach is actively growling.
Exactly. Or pretend that a toxic work environment is actually a joy. You are acknowledging the friction. You are acknowledging the hunger.
Right.
But you are refusing to let the friction be the loudest voice in the room. And to prove that this isn't just, a psychological trick or fake positivity, the devotional synthesizes insights from 3 major leadership voices.
Oh, yeah. We have John Maxwell, Craig Groeschel, and Rick Warren.
Right. And they each explain the actual mechanics of how this reframing works in practice.
Let's unpack those mechanisms. John Maxwell is quoted first, and he frames gratitude as a lens. He says, "A thankful heart sees opportunities. An unthankful heart sees obstacles."
Think about the difference in the energy required for those 2 perspectives. I mean, an obstacle demands energy.
It's a wall.
It is a wall you have to climb over, and it breeds exhaustion just looking at it. But an opportunity provides energy. It is a door opening.
Wow. But the reality of the difficult situation remains identical in both scenarios.
Right.
Exactly. The mountain hasn't moved. But gratitude fundamentally alters the energy economy of your brain. You stop wasting mental bandwidth staring at the barrier, and you start looking for the tool God is handing you to scale it.
Which leads perfectly into the Craig Groeschel quote,
Mhm.
which addresses the whole concept of contentment. He teaches that gratitude turns what you have into enough.
That is a powerful one.
It feels like a direct assault on the modern consumerist mindset. I mean, our entire society is engineered to constantly remind us of what we don't have, so that we keep buying and striving and stressing.
And a physical fast amplifies that sense of not having enough to an extreme degree. Groeschel is really pointing out that scarcity is often an illusion born of comparison and entitlement.
Oh, absolutely.
Gratitude is the mechanism that shatters that illusion. It takes the meager provision in front of you and it magnifies it. It is the spiritual equivalent of Jesus multiplying the loaves and fishes.
I love that. When you give thanks for the small thing, it becomes sufficient for the journey.
Yeah.
Right. Then the devotional brings in Rick Warren, who reminds us that gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions.
And we see this backed up by modern psychology all the time.
All the time. People who maintain active gratitude practices have lower cortisol levels, better sleep, higher resilience to trauma. It physically heals you.
So when you combine those three insights, the picture becomes very clear. Gratitude is not a passive reaction to a perfect life.
No, it's an active, robust, healthy method for engaging with a difficult life. It stabilizes the internal environment so that you can actually endure the pressure of the fast without completely burning out.
But if this internal shift works to silence that scarcity panic inside my own head, it raises an obvious question.
Which is,
Does this stay an internal exercise? Because if my emotions are stabilized and my heart is softened, that has to bleed out into the physical space around me, right?
it absolutely does. And the devotional naturally transitions from the internal architecture of your heart to the external architecture of your daily life.
Okay, so where does it apply this?
It maps this practice onto the three most high-friction environments you navigate: your home, your workplace, and your church.
Let's look at the home first. Because the source instructs the reader to thank God for their spouse, even when the marriage is stretching, to thank God for their children, even when parenting is tiring, and to thank God for the physical home itself, even if it is imperfect.
Those are incredibly grounded, gritty words: stretching, tiring, imperfect.
They really are. The author isn't painting a picture of some flawless, Instagram-ready domestic utopia where the laundry is always folded and no one ever raises their voice.
Right, right. The text is openly acknowledging the profound exhaustion of daily family life, but it argues that deploying gratitude in the middle of, like, a messy Tuesday night shifts the entire atmosphere of the house from pressure to peace.
I keep thinking about this dynamic in terms of temperature control. It's the difference between operating as the thermometer versus operating as a thermostat.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Unpack that.
Well, a thermometer just reads the room.
Right.
It has no agency.
Yeah.
If you walk into your house after a long day of fasting and working, and the kids are screaming, the sink is full of dishes, and your spouse is completely frayed, a thermometer just reflects that heat.
Yeah, it just absorbs the anxiety.
Exactly. It says, well, it's 100 degrees of stress in here. I guess I'll be stressed too.
Which is the default human reaction. An unthankful heart mirrors and amplifies the negativity of its environment. It just joins the chaos.
But a thermostat actually sets the temperature. It has an internal baseline, and it regulates the environment to match that baseline.
Oh, that's so good.
So when you walk into that same messy, chaotic house and actively express gratitude for the fact that you actually have children to make the mess or a spouse to partner with, you are literally clicking the dial down.
You are. You are establishing peace and unity in the room rather than just becoming a victim to the chaos. That causality is profound. You're overriding the environmental anxiety with your own spiritual steadiness. And the devotional applies that exact same thermostat effect to the second sphere, the workplace.
Right. It instructs you to thank God for provision, for the skills He has given you, and the doors He has opened.
And again, this does not mean your job is suddenly easy or your boss is suddenly fair.
Far from it. I mean, the text explicitly notes that gratitude makes you steady under pressure and hopeful in challenges.
Yeah.
It positions a grateful heart as a quiet testimony of God's goodness in the professional realm.
That phrase, quiet testimony, is really fascinating to me.
How so?
Well, in a lot of corporate environments, the cultural default, like the way people bond with each other, is through shared misery.
Oh, 100%. complaining around the coffee machine.
Exactly. Venting about management. Shared stress is the social glue. So you don't necessarily need to stand on your desk with a megaphone and preach a sermon to be a witness.
Right. Your steadiness under pressure, your refusal to participate in the toxic bonding of complaining, that becomes the testimony itself.
Yeah, when everyone else is operating out of self-preservation and anxiety, a person anchored by gratitude stands out like a lighthouse. You reshape the culture of your office simply by refusing to absorb its panic.
And if that is what happens when one person operates as a thermostat in an office, imagine the compound effect in the third sphere,
Yeah.
the devotional mentions, the church.
Oh, definitely. Day 5 asks you to thank God for the spiritual family surrounding you, the leaders who guide you, and the people He has placed in your life.
And what's the specific outcome? The text links to this.
It says a thankful heart strengthens unity and builds honor. It allows you to see the beauty of what God is building through your local church body.
Which brings us right back to John Maxwell's lens of opportunity versus the lens of obstacles. It is very, very easy to adopt a consumerist mindset regarding church.
Oh, absolutely.
We show up, we evaluate the music, we critique the sermon, we notice the flaws in the people sitting in the row ahead of us. When you look through a lens of critique, you see nothing but human frailty. You see the obstacle.
Because a church is made of imperfect people, there will always be an abundance of flaws to find if that is what you are looking for.
So true.
But gratitude forces you to drop the consumer scorecard. It forces you to look at the miraculous fact that God is using deeply flawed people to build something holy. It builds honor instead of tearing it down.
So we have this progression. Gratitude alters your internal morology. It changes the atmosphere of your home. It creates a quiet testimony in your workplace, and it builds unity in your church.
It really covers every base.
Because it so actively shapes all of these horizontal, earthly relationships, it makes perfect sense that the devotional ultimately reveals how it alters our primary vertical relationship with God.
Yes. We have arrived at the crescendo of the Day 5 material. This is where the concept is elevated to its highest form.
I'm ready.
The text states plainly, gratitude is not a reaction, it is a choice, a daily posture, a spiritual weapon, a heart position that keeps you aligned with heaven.
Okay, we are told to view gratitude as a spiritual weapon. But earlier, the devotional specifically instructed us to thank God for the doors He has opened and the ones He has closed.
Right.
Giving thanks for a closed door feels like the ultimate act of surrender, not an attack. We usually associate weapons with aggression. How does yielding to a closed door, maybe a massive disappointment or a dashed dream, actually function as a defense?
To understand that, we have to look at how spiritual warfare operates in our actual daily lives.
Okay.
The enemy's primary tactic against believers is rarely some dramatic cinematic attack. It is the slow, insidious creep of discouragement.
Wow, yeah.
It is planting a tiny seed of entitlement when you pray for a promotion and don't get it. It is the slow build of resentment when a relationship ends or a health issue arises. The enemy wants to use life's friction to make you doubt God's fundamental goodness, one minor inconvenience at a time.
So gratitude is a proactive strike against that slow creep. It cuts the resentment off before it can even take root in the soil of your heart.
Precisely. It is a highly sophisticated defense mechanism. When you intentionally thank God for a closed door, you are actively striking down the temptation to feel bitter, rejected, or abandoned.
You are declaring out loud that God's no is just as much a form of divine protection and provision as His yes.
Exactly. You are wielding your trust against your own inherent human doubt. It requires immense spiritual maturity to look at a setback and say, thank you for guarding my path.
It completely flips the narrative as a setback. The devotional takes it a step further and says that thanking God for what He has done in the past actually strengthens your faith for what He will do next.
It keeps the heart soft, teachable, ready to hear God's voice, and ready to move when the next door finally does open.
And the author anchors all of these bold claims in two specific foundational scriptures. These texts prove that this isn't just modern self-help philosophy, it is an ancient biblical mandate.
Absolutely.
The first is 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 18, which instructs believers to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus.
There is a tiny but incredibly heavy preposition in that verse that we have to talk about.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
It says to give thanks in all circumstances. It does not say to give thanks for all circumstances.
That distinction is everything. It's the difference between authentic faith and that toxic positivity we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. You do not have to be thankful for the tragedy. You do not have to be thankful for the disease or the job loss or even the physical pain of the hunger you are experiencing right now on day 5 of this fast.
Right. God is not asking you to celebrate the brokenness of the world.
But in the middle of that brokenness, you give thanks to the God who is walking through it with you. Because, as the verse explicitly says, that posture of thanksgiving is God's will for you. It is the posture that keeps you aligned with heaven's perspective.
That is so powerful. And the devotional pairs that beautifully with the second scripture, Psalm 100, verse 4. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name.
That psalm is entirely about the mechanics of access.
Thanksgiving is the entry code.
Yes, you cannot bypass the gates and demand deeper presence or deeper revelation from God while holding on to a spirit of entitlement or complaint. Gratitude is the protocol for entering the throne room.
Wow.
By choosing it as a daily posture, especially when your physical body is depleted during a fast, you are intentionally forming a resilient, steady heart. And the devotional is very explicit about the ultimate end goal here.
What does it say?
It says, a thankful heart becomes a steady heart, and a steady heart becomes a heart God can use.
A steady heart becomes a heart God can use. That is the absolute bottom line of this entire deep dive.
It really is.
So as you push through the hunger, the fatigue, and the disruption of day 5 of this monthly Baseline Family Church fast, let that be your core mission. Refuse to be a thermometer in your home, your workplace, and your church. Choose to be the thermostat.
And you know, the material provides a closing prayer for today that captures this exact surrender.
Oh, that's right.
It is a request asking the Father to cultivate a soft, steady, and sensitive heart within you so that you can build his kingdom with joy. It is a willful exchange trading in your human right to complain for the strength and clarity of heavenly alignment.
We want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you continue your fast. The devotional made it clear that a thankful heart strengthens your faith for what God will do next. So consider your own life right now. Is there a current lingering frustration, like a specific closed door or a painful no that you've been wrestling with? That might actually be the exact thing you need to thank God for today.
That's a challenging question.
It is. What if yielding to that closed door with gratitude is the very requirement to prepare your heart for the next door He is about to open?